That flag on your chest doesn't make you special. I'm not flying to Colorado to watch you get a piece of tin pinned on your shirt." My mother's voice was flat, bored, like she was declining a dinner invitation. My brother laughed in the background. "Just live stream it or something. It's not like anyone's gonna know we skipped." "My name is Danielle. I'm 27 years old. I'm a first lieutenant in the United States Army, an intelligence officer assigned to Fort Carson. And I was standing in a supply closet at 0600 hours, holding a phone to my ear, hearing my own mother tell me my Bronze Star ceremony wasn't worth the price of a plane ticket. But what none of them knew, not my mother, not my father, not my brother sitting on his throne of borrowed money, was that the man who would walk me onto that stage instead would make every single person in that room stop breathing. Before I tell you who that man was, hit like and subscribe if your own family has ever made you feel like your sacrifice was an inconvenience. And tell me in the comments, where are you listening from tonight, and what time is it where you are? The call ended with a click, not even a goodbye. I stood there in the supply closet, surrounded by boxes of printer paper and spare radio batteries, and I did not cry. I did not throw the phone. My breathing slowed into a rhythm I'd trained into my body years ago. 4 counts in, hold, 4 counts out. The same rhythm I used the night our convoy took small arms fire outside Kandahar, and I had to keep my hands steady while I called in coordinates with someone bleeding out beside me. I have been steady, under worse things than my mother's voice. That's what I told myself. It didn't make it hurt less. It just meant the hurt had nowhere to go except down, into a place I'd learned to seal shut a long time ago. I didn't delete the call from my phone. I opened the recording app I keep running during family calls. Now a habit I picked up after the 3rd time my father denied saying something he absolutely said, and I saved the file. I labeled it plainly, Linda, Bronze Star Refusal, June Ceremony. Filed it in a folder with 11 other recordings going back 2 years. Intel. That's all it was to me anymore. Evidence in a war I hadn't chosen, but had absolutely learned to fight. There's a small tin box I keep on the shelf above my bunk. Inside it is a strip of gauze, still faintly rust-colored, and a piece of shrapnel the size of a fingernail that a surgeon dug out of my thigh and handed to me in a specimen bag like it was a souvenir. To the Army, that tin box represents a story about a soldier who kept doing her job while she was bleeding. To my family, if they'd ever bothered to ask, it would have been morbid and attention-seeking. My mother once told me combat stories were not appropriate for the dinner table. My own scars embarrassed her more than they impressed. My family's disinterest in my career was never really about the war. It was about the wrong kind of shine. My little brother, Tyler, had dropped out of college 2 years ago to build a personal brand, a phrase that meant selling overpriced protein supplements to a following he'd bought with our parents' credit card. My parents had reorganized their entire lives around Tyler's supposed empire the way some families reorganize around a new baby. Every dinner, every holiday, every ounce of pride they had left in them went to a 24-year-old with a ring light and a garage full of unsold inventory. My commission, my deployments, my Bronze Star, none of it could compete with the dopamine hit of Tyler posting a screenshot of a good sales day. I picked up my phone again, and this time, I didn't call anyone to vent. I opened a message thread with Marcus, my fiancé, the man my mother referred to, when she referred to him at all, as that mechanic. Marcus owned 3 auto shops across 2 counties and could rebuild an engine blindfolded, and to my family that made him invisible. I typed one line, "Nobody's coming," again. I hit send before I could talk myself into softening it. His reply came back in under a minute. "I'm coming. Tell me where and when." That was it. No, I'm so sorry, babe. No hollow comfort. Just a man confirming he'd be there, the way you'd confirm troop movements. Marcus understood something my family never had, that I didn't need to be coddled. I needed to be backed. Underneath the grease-stained coveralls and the quiet way he carried himself, Marcus had a stillness to him that people mistook for simplicity. It wasn't simplicity. It was control. I smoothed the front of my ACUs, checked the crease in my sleeve out of habit, and walked to the small calendar taped inside my locker. June 21st was circled in black marker, the day I was scheduled to receive the Bronze Star with Valor in front of my battalion, my commanding general, and, I had assumed, foolishly, my family. Now that circle didn't feel like an invitation. It felt like a countdown to a fight I hadn't wanted, but wasn't going to lose. To understand how a mother could tell her daughter that a Valor award wasn't worth a plane ticket, you have to go back 3 weeks to a dinner none of us should have agreed to. 3 weeks earlier, my parents had flown out to visit not for me, but because Tyler was hosting an investor mixer for his supplement brand at a rented lake house outside Denver, and they wanted to be there to support his vision. Since I was stationed nearby, I got invited almost as an afterthought, a box to check. I brought Marcus. I should have known better. The lake house smelled like citronella candles and cheap champagne. Tyler stood at the head of a long table, wearing a blazer that still had the sizing sticker on the cuff, talking about disrupting the wellness space to a room of people who looked like they'd wandered in off a yacht. My father sat near him, nodding along at every sentence like Tyler was reciting scripture. My mother kept refilling Tyler's water glass like he was a toddler who might dehydrate mid-pitch. Tyler turned to Marcus at one point, swirling his drink the way people do when they've watched too many movies about rich men. "You should really think bigger, man," he said. "Turning wrenches all day, that's a ceiling, not a career. You need equity. You need leverage." He said leverage, like he'd just learned the word that morning, which, knowing Tyler, he probably had. My father let out this eager little laugh, the same laugh he used every time Tyler said something he thought sounded smart. My father spent 30 years as a claims adjuster, quietly reliable, and now he was auditioning to be the hype man for his own son's Ponzi-shaped protein company. Under the table, my hands closed into fists. I felt my jaw tighten the way it used to right before a mission briefing. I was ready to say something I couldn't take back. Then I felt Marcus's hand settle over mine, warm, heavy, grounding. He didn't even look at me. He looked at Tyler with an expression so calm it was almost frightening. "My work pays my bills and funds my growth just fine, Tyler," Marcus said, even and unbothered. "I'm not looking for advice from someone still finding investors for protein powder." Tyler laughed it off, that performative rich guy laugh, and turned back to his audience like he'd won. He hadn't. I'd seen Marcus use that exact tone with a customer who tried to talk down the price of a transmission rebuild. It wasn't the tone of a man who'd lost. Then my mother clinked her fork against her glass, hungry for the room's attention back. "Okay, enough shop talk," she announced. "We actually have exciting news. Tyler and I have been planning it for weeks." She looked directly at me, and something cold moved behind her eyes. "We're doing a big launch event for his new product line, June 21st, at the lake house. All the investors will be there. June 21st. My ceremony date. The date I had personally texted to both of them a month earlier, along with the base access instructions and a formal invitation with my name printed on army letterhead. My father clapped his hands together, delighted. "Perfect. We'll get there early to help set up." My mother beamed like she'd just solved a scheduling miracle. Neither of them so much as glanced at me. It wasn't an oversight. It was a decision. My entire military career, boiled down and erased, replaced by a launch party for a company that, as far as I could tell, had sold exactly 41 bottles of pre-workout in its history. I didn't argue. I didn't remind them what the date meant to me. Begging people to see your worth only teaches them they can keep looking away. I just sat there with my untouched salmon going cold, feeling something in my chest lock itself shut for good. We left an hour later. Out in the gravel driveway, Tyler was showing off his new car to a cluster of investors, a leased Tesla he absolutely could not afford on his own. Marcus and I walked past him toward our truck. Marcus paused, just briefly, and nodded at the car. "Nice Tesla," he said, mild as anything. "You know the lease company runs a credit check every 90 days, right? Missed one payment already shows up." He kept walking. He didn't wait to see Tyler's face go pale under the porch lights, but I did. I saw exactly how fast the confidence drained out of him. 48 hours before my ceremony, my phone rang so hard against the desk it nearly buzzed off the edge. It was Captain Reyes, our battalion's public affairs officer. She didn't waste time on hello. "Lieutenant, your brother is in my office right now." Her voice had the tight, controlled edge of someone holding their temper by a thread. "He walked in claiming he needed to coordinate logistics for your ceremony. Then he put an envelope on my desk. $8,000, cash. He wants your ceremony moved to a smaller room so he can use the main hall for something he called it a brand activation at the same time." I gripped the phone hard enough to feel my own pulse in my fingers. "He tried to bribe you to move a Bronze Star ceremony so he could sell protein shakes in the hall instead?" "That's the short version, yes." "Have him escorted off post," I said. My voice came out flat. almost mechanical. Call the gate guards. If he resists, they can put him on the ground for all I care. Already in motion, Reyes said. Watch yourself, Lieutenant. Your family's out of control. I grabbed my jacket off the back of my chair, ready to drive straight to my parents' rental and settle this face to face. I didn't get 2 steps outside the barracks before a black SUV screeched around the corner and stopped hard at the curb in front of me. The back door opened. Renata Cole stepped out. Marcus's older sister, general counsel for Cole Automotive Holdings. The company Marcus's family had actually built from a single shop into a regional empire over 30 years. The empire nobody in my family had bothered to research before writing Marcus off as just a mechanic. Renata wore a sharp navy suit and moved like she'd never once in her life needed to hurry to make a point. Get in, she said. Your family thinks your boundaries are optional. We're going to correct that. I climbed in without argument. 15 minutes later, we were standing in an overpriced coffee shop downtown, and there, loaded down with shopping bags, were my mother and Tyler, laughing about something on his phone. My mother spotted me, and her mouth curled into that particular smile she saves for public places, the one that says behave. Oh, look who found time to leave the base, she said, eyeing my uniform like it was a costume. Don't worry about tomorrow, sweetie. I'll have someone snap a photo of you with your medal, if anyone actually shows up. Renata stepped forward before I could respond, heels striking the tile floor with a rhythm like a countdown. She stopped exactly 2 feet from Tyler. Tyler Whitfield, she said, calm and precise. Your company has 41 total sales in 8 months. You're currently 3 payments behind on a leased vehicle you told a room full of investors you owned outright. And the $8,000 you handed a public affairs officer this morning as a bribe? That's a federal offense on a military installation. I have the incident report already. My mother's face went slack. $8,000? Tyler, we don't have $8,000 to give you. It's fine, Mom. It's an investment. It's a felony, Renata corrected, without raising her voice. And your investors, once they find out he tried to bribe a federal officer, are going to run, not walk, away from that lake house event. Tyler's mouth opened and nothing came out. My mother grabbed her shopping bags like they were suddenly evidence and pulled Tyler toward the door, abandoning half of them on the table. Renata watched them go, then turned to me, adjusting her cuff like she'd just closed a routine meeting. Perimeter's secure, she said simply. Now, let's go see someone who actually matters. She drove me to the clinic near headquarters, where I was scheduled for a routine pre-ceremony check-in. Leaning against the brick wall outside, in a plain windbreaker with his hands in his pockets, looking for all the world like a retired man waiting on a prescription, stood a person I recognized instantly despite the civilian clothes. Major General Thomas Ashford, commander of the Army's Intelligence and Security Command. A man who had 3 stars on his shoulder when he was in uniform, and who I had personally briefed twice during a classified operation 18 months earlier. An operation where the intel I'd flagged had likely kept an entire convoy from driving into an ambush. I snapped a salute. He returned it slowly, studying me the way he studied everything, like he was reading between the lines of my posture. You look like hell, Lieutenant, he said. Long week? Long 48 hours, sir. We sat in my small office, and I gave it to him straight the bribe, the demand to clear the hall, my brother's fake company treating a military ceremony like a scheduling obstacle. When I said my brother's name, Ashford's jaw tightened. Whitfield Wellness, he repeated slowly. That name rang a bell for a reason. Your brother cold emailed my office 6 months ago, asking if the Army would be interested in an exclusive supplement partnership. End quote. We get spam like that constantly. I didn't put it together that he was your brother. He shook his head. And your father, is he still refusing to walk you in tomorrow? Yes, sir. He'll be at the launch party. Ashford stood, and even out of uniform, his presence filled the room. Lieutenant, 18 months ago, you flagged an anomaly in a supply route that most analysts twice your rank would have missed. That call likely saved lives in that convoy, mine included. If your father wants to abandon his post, that's his failure, not yours. It would be my honor to walk you in tomorrow instead. My throat tightened, but I didn't let it show. I nodded once, sharp. Thank you, sir. He left, and the quiet of the room settled back in. Then my phone buzzed. A text from my father. Danielle, your mother told me about the coffee shop. Please don't bring Marcus tomorrow if we do end up stopping by. His whole look isn't right for photos with Tyler's investors around. I read it twice. letting the audacity of it fully land. Then a second text came through. Also, if you can't respect that, I'm going to have to cancel the flight money we sent you. We're not funding disrespect toward your brother's event. $400. That's what they'd wired me for a flight home over the holidays, money I hadn't even needed and had barely touched. $400 was apparently my exact price, the value my father had assigned to my dignity. A two-star general had just told me it would be an honor to escort me onto that stage, and my own father was trying to leash me with pocket change. I didn't reply. I opened my banking app instead, found the transfer, and initiated a return. I sent every cent of it back to his account that same night, with a memo line that read simply, "Not for sale." The night before the ceremony, our unit held a small dinner in the mess hall dress uniforms, low light, quiet respect around every table except mine, where 4 chairs sat completely empty. I excused myself early and stood in the bathroom for a minute, hands braced on the sink, and made the mistake of opening Instagram. My mother's story was right at the top. A video from the lake house string lights, a banner reading, "Whitfield Wellness Launch," and there they all were. Tyler holding up a protein shaker like a trophy, my father with his arm around him, my mother recording it all with a caption in bold white text. "So proud of our future CEO. Family shows up for family," posted the night before my ceremony, while my chairs sat empty at that table. I turned off my phone and walked back out. Marcus was waiting by the door in a dark suit, calm as ever. I didn't say anything. I just turned my phone toward him and let him watch the video loop once. Something shifted in his face. Not anger exactly, something colder, more deliberate. He pulled out his own phone and dialed a number without looking at his contacts. "David," he said, voice flat. "Pull the file on Whitfield Wellness's line of credit." "Yes, the one backed against my parents' equity in the strip mall lease, the one Tyler's been paying rent through for his flagship retail space." A pause. "Enforce the default clause on the lease Monday morning. Full sweep." He hung up, slid the phone back into his jacket, and looked at the double doors like he was already picturing what was coming. "They've got about 12 hours left to enjoy the party," he said quietly. "It ends Monday." The next morning, I stood in the staging room above the ceremony hall, watching through the window as a rental car pulled up outside. My father adjusted his tie. My mother checked her makeup in a compact mirror. They looked disgusted just standing near the base. My mother actually stepped around a puddle like it might ruin her shoes on federal property. A text came in from her. "We're here. Sitting in the back, we've got to leave right after to help Tyler with setup for tonight's second event." Tonight's second event. There was another one. Of course there was. I didn't reply. I watched them find seats in the back row like strangers who'd wandered into the wrong building. Then, moments later, a convoy of black government SUVs rolled through the checkpoint below, moving with that unmistakable weight of real authority flags on the hoods, tinted windows, security detail stepping out in sharp formation. My father's head snapped toward the convoy. I watched his whole posture change, watched him lean over and whisper something to my mother, both of them clearly assuming the army had rolled out serious brass to scout my brother's little wellness brand for some kind of partnership. He had no idea. None of them did. I turned from the window and walked down to the holding area, where the heavy double doors separated me from 300 seated soldiers and officers. I could hear the low hum of the crowd through the wood. If you've ever stood alone behind a closed door, while your family was somewhere else, celebrating people who never once celebrated you, you already know exactly what that silence weighs. Hit like and subscribe if you've ever had to become the person who shows up for yourself. And tell me in the comments, what's the one moment your family chose someone else over you, the moment you couldn't unsee? The room went quiet on the other side of the doors. A microphone clicked on. "Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the presentation of the Bronze Star with Valor." Chairs scraped against the floor as 300 people stood. I lifted my chin, squared my shoulders, and waited. First Lieutenant Danielle Whitfield. A shape moved beside me in the dark holding area. Not the man in the windbreaker anymore, Major General Thomas Ashford in full dress uniform, ribbons stacked across his chest, 2 stars gleaming on each shoulder. He didn't say a word. He simply offered his arm. I took it. The doors opened. Light and camera flashes hit us at once, and the entire room seemed to inhale sharply as 300 people registered exactly who was walking me in. Every soldier in that room snapped to attention and salute. We walked to center stage together, boots striking the floor in perfect rhythm, and I found the back row with my eyes before I even looked for Marcus. My father was leaning back with his arms crossed, that same bored little smirk on his face, clearly assuming I was walking in with some random escort officer. Then his eyes tracked up to the stars on Ashford's shoulders, and I watched the smirk die in real time. His arms uncrossed. He shrank an inch in his seat. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. General Ashford pinned the medal to my chest himself. Steady hands, no ceremony wasted on speed. The room erupted into applause, the real kind, the kind that shakes a building. He leaned in slightly as the noise thundered around us, voice low enough that only I could hear it. "Your brother's little launch tonight," he murmured, eyes flicking briefly toward the back row. "Might be missing a few investors by the time he gets there." I let a small, thin smile touch the corner of my mouth. "Let him find out the hard way, sir." The reception afterward was full of officers and their families. Soft conversation, real pride in the room. My family sat in the back corner near the exit, already halfway to leaving. My father wouldn't meet my eyes. My mother kept checking her phone. Monday morning, exactly as Marcus promised, it started. Cole Automotive's legal team enforced the default clause on the strip mall lease, backing Tyler's flagship retail space. Turns out my parents had co-signed that lease using their own home as collateral, something Tyler had conveniently left out of every proud phone call. The property manager changed the locks by 10 a.m. Tyler's remaining inventory, boxes and boxes of unsold protein powder, sat locked behind a door he could no longer open. By Wednesday, Tyler was posting a shaky, red-eyed video online, claiming he'd been the victim of corporate sabotage and asking his followers to donate to a legal fund. It got exactly 400 views and a comment section full of people asking for refunds on products that had never shipped. My mother called Marcus directly that Thursday, something she had never once done in the 2 years we'd been together. I only know what was said because Marcus put it on speaker and let me hear every word. She didn't apologize. She didn't mention the empty chairs, or the launch party scheduled over my ceremony, or the $8,000 in bribe money. She asked him, flatly, to release the lease and stop punishing the family for one bad investment. Marcus's voice stayed level the entire call. "The lease isn't a punishment. It's a contract your son defaulted on. I run a business, Linda, not a family favor system." He hung up before she could argue. 2 weeks later, my father showed up at the front gate of the base. I heard about it before I saw it. A call from the officer on duty telling me my father was standing at the checkpoint, refusing to leave, insisting he needed to speak with me. I walked down to the gate in my uniform, unhurried. He looked smaller than I remembered. Unshaven, wrinkled shirt, the kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. "Danielle," he said, gripping the bars of the gate like he thought I might vanish if he let go. "Please, we lost the lease. We might lose the house behind it. Your mother hasn't left her room in days. You have to talk to Marcus's family. Just ask them to work something out. We're your parents." I stood 3 feet from the gate and felt nothing where I expected to feel something. No anger left, no grief, just a flat, clean quiet. "You had a seat reserved for you at my ceremony," I said. "You chose a launch party for a company that never sold a single case of product on time. You tried to bribe a federal officer to clear space for it. You told me the man I love wasn't good enough to be seen in your photos. And you used $400 to try to control me like a leash." I reached into my jacket and pulled out a folder, tossed it over the top of the gate. It landed at his feet, papers spilling out the recording transcript, the incident report on the bribery attempt, a printed copy of his own text messages. "You made your choice on June 21st, I said. "Live in it." I turned to the gate guard beside me. "Corporal, these are unauthorized civilians loitering at a federal checkpoint. Escort him off the property." My father's face crumpled, but I didn't watch it happen. I was already walking back toward headquarters, and I didn't look back once. 6 months later, Whitfield Wellness was gone completely. The domain expired, the social accounts deleted, the inventory auctioned off by the property management company to recover unpaid rent. Tyler took a warehouse job at a shipping distribution center 2 towns over, the kind of job that requires a badge and a time clock and doesn't care how many followers you used to have. My parents sold their house to cover what remained of the co-signed debt and moved into a modest rental across town. Neither of them has called since the day at the gate. I haven't called either. I stand now on a small piece of land Marcus and I bought just outside Colorado Springs, close enough to base that I can still hear the training exercises, some mornings, far enough that the noise of my old family can't reach me anymore. Marcus walks up behind me most evenings while I'm out by the fence line, wraps his arms around me, doesn't say much. He doesn't have to. For a long time, I thought love from your family was something you were owed automatically, something you had to keep proving yourself worthy of, no matter how much it cost you. I know now that isn't true. Respect isn't inherited through blood. It's built through who actually shows up when the room is empty and the chairs are cold. I locked a gate behind me the day I stopped waiting for people who were never going to walk through it, and on the other side of that gate, I found something I hadn't had in years: quiet. If you're standing at your own gate right now, deciding whether to lock it, I want you to know it's allowed. Hit like and subscribe if you believe respect has to be earned, not handed out because of blood. And tell me in the comments what was the exact moment you finally decided to lock your own gate.